So let's start off with task 1. You'll see that in task 1 the first thing it tells us is we need to put in a line friends equals and then the square brackets. The square brackets mean that we're starting off creating a list. Now we're going to use append. Append means add on to the list. Now careful with the brackets here, you're using round brackets now. So we're going to append a name to the list. We're going to append the name Luke. Now we're going to append 5 people altogether. It says add 5 friends, so I'm going to add my friend Mike. Now I'm getting bored with writing friends.append, so I'm going to copy and paste. It's much easier if I'm going to be doing the same thing over and over again, just to use copy and paste here and just change the name, because we're using the same code all the time. So there we go. We're going to put, remember you've got to make sure these go on separate lines, and then all we're going to do is change the names of the people on the list. So just highlight that, get rid of it, type in my friend Jenny, remove Mike there, type in Jill, and then last of all my friend Ahmed. There we go. So now all we need to know is what's actually happened. So we're going to put in a print here and that'll tell us what's happened. So it's going to print out and show us what's in the friends list. So now all we've got to do now is run this, and so run module. Always have to save our code before we do that. Let's go and find somewhere sensible to put that. I'm going to put it into my temporary folder, which is up here somewhere. There it is. And I'm going to give it a sensible name. I'm going to call it lists learning.py to make sure it remembers it's a Python program. Save it and it runs the program. Now you can see my list here. Luke is the first person who was appended, then Mike, then Jenny, then Jill, then Ahmed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add some notes here. I can't write on the file there, but I'm going to add some notes using hashtags to remind me what's going on here. So this first line sets up a list called friends, and I'm going to make sure I actually write the properly. Then I'm going to point out that append is a command that adds names to the list, and if I could write properly, that's what I'd write. There we go. And last of all, we're going to write a little hashtag to tell us that we're going to print to see what's in the list. We can't know what's going on unless we print it out. So there we go. Okay, let's quickly save that to make sure we don't lose it. And now we can move on to task 2, slicing the list. So how can we see different parts of the list rather than just seeing the whole list? So I'm going to add a bit more onto the end. You'll see there's a bit that says print friends. Well, I've already got that, so I'm just going to add on to that underneath. And the first line there tells me it wants me to print friends 1, but first of all, what I'm going to do is to avoid getting all mixed up, I'm going to make sure I put in some hashtags to tell me what my different tasks are. So print friends, and then we're going to put square brackets 1. Now we need to think about what that 1 actually means after the name. We did a little bit about these square bracket numbers in the last task we did, but now we need to remember about the difference between round brackets and square brackets. Now we're going to introduce more numbers. So we're going to print friends 1:2. Now, interesting to see how much of the list that actually shows. Might be worth pausing at this point just to think to yourself, what do you think that's actually going to show? Just going to do a little bit of tidying up here. There we go. So print 1:2, how many do you think that will print out? And print 1:4, how many do you think that will print out? Okay, once again, we've written all the code now, so let's try it out, see what happens. that here. There you go. Run module. Have to save it each time. And there you are. Now you can see, we see the whole list at the beginning there. Let's just drag it over and make it so that we can see the code at the same time as the as what the results are. So we've got the whole list up there, and now you see on the first one where it prints out Mike. So print friends square brackets 1 prints Mike. Now Luke is 0, Mike is 1. So remember, numbers lists always start at position 0. So Jenny is 2, Jill is 3, and so on. Now we've printed out for friends 1:2. You'd have thought it might print out 1 and 2, but it prints out the first one, but then it stops at 2. And the same goes for friends 1:4. It prints 1, which is Mike, 2, which is Jenny, 3, which is Jill, and then stops when it gets to number 4. So we're just going to put a little note on here about what's going on. So printing friends 1 prints the name at position 1. The name at position 1 is Mike. Then print friends 1:2 prints the name at position 1 and keeps going on until it hits position 2. I'm going to try and write this in some way so it all fits on the screen here. Keep going until, that seems to be going off the screen, so let's make that a little bit shorter. That's right, keep going until 2. So when it gets to 2, it stops. So the next one, print the name at position 1, then keep going until 4. So position 1 is Mike, position 2 is Jenny, position 3 is Jill. Then when it reaches position 4, that's Ahmed, it stops, and it doesn't print the one at position 4. So that's how we can print different parts of the list. We can show different parts of the list rather than seeing the whole list. Right, let's look at task 3. Task 3, adding to a list using extend and insert. We're going to be talking about how, once we've got a list, how can we add more stuff to it? Obviously we can use append, but we want to be able to add sort of blocks of stuff or put stuff into new places. Now already we've got the print friends up here. It keeps talking about doing stuff. I'm going to actually ignore what it says at the beginning there, and I'm just going to add another bit here called task 3. So the first thing it asks us to do in task 3 is to extend the list. And we're going to extend the list by adding on another list. So we're going to extend the list. Now notice that's a round bracket, and a list is shown using square brackets. So we're going to add a new list that contains Paul and Colin and Kevin. So be careful about your brackets here. We're going to make sure we fill in the list. There we are. We've finished that with a square bracket, and then we put the round bracket on because we started it with a round bracket. There we are. Then we're going to add another line, friends.insert. So insert makes it sound like it's not going to happen on the end, it's going to be stuck somewhere in the middle. Now notice this time there are no square brackets. We're just going to insert at position 2 Carlos, and we need to actually show what happens with this list, so we're going to need to print the list off again. But there we go. I just thought I'd add a little bit here that it's been a bit confusing so far as to which bits are which. So we'll just print some labels in at different points during the output to make it clear which ones are which. So now we'll run the program. And of course you can see straight away that I've forgotten in task 3 that we need to show what's going on. So let's just add a print on the end there. need to print out and show what's happened to the list at this point. That's it. So each point we do need to print out, otherwise we've got no idea what's going on. Right, let's try running again. Save again, because obviously we've made a change. And now you can see what's happened in task 3. So remember, we extended the list by adding the list Paul and Colin and Kevin on the end. Oh, let's pull that over a bit just so we can see what we're doing. There we go. So we extended the list. So the extended list, we added Paul, Colin and Kevin, and you can see that Paul, Colin and Kevin are on the end of the list. Then the second thing we did was to insert at position 2. Now remember, it starts at 0, so 0, 1, 2. Carlos is stuck in at position 2 and everyone else moves along. Okay, let's just save that and then move on to task 4. I'll add all the notes in later so you can see those on the next thing. So we've talked about how to add things to the list. Now we're going to talk about how to remove things from a list, how to delete things. And there are lots of different ways you can do that with lists. So we're just going to add some different ways that you can take stuff out of lists. So again, I'm going to put in a hashtag to tell us we're doing task 4. It's all getting a bit down the bottom there, isn't it? So I think we might try to actually move the whole thing up a bit. That's better. So now we're going to start by getting rid of Colin. Poor old Colin, he's got to go. It's not that he's not a friend of mine anymore, it's just we're going to remove him. So let's put task 4 on there just so as we can remind ourselves as what we're going to do with this. And friends dot remove. And who are we going to remove? Yeah, we're going to remove Colin. So let's get rid of Colin. That means it's going to look in the list, find Colin and get rid of him. And what we'll do is we'll print what it looks like straight after that so we can see clearly what's been going on. Now we've got a second way. We can, now this one you don't put a dot something, you actually just use the word del. Del short for delete. Don't need a bracket after this one even. So friends, and then whatever's at position 2 in friends. So we know who's in position 2, don't we? So that friend has got to go. So we'll have another look and we'll make sure that we can see what happens when we've run that del. And now we're going to use another thing called pop. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to take something out of the list and we're going to put it into a new variable called last friend. So pop. Let's see what happens when we pop something off the list. So we're going to, this time we're going to print friends, and we're also going to print last friend to see what actually has been removed in this case. I think by the name of the variable you've got a fair idea of what that might be. Okay, let's run the program, see what it does. And we'll just move everything over a bit just so we can see this compared to the code. That's it, over there, and that's all looking a bit narrow, so let's make that a bit wider on the other side. That's it. Okay, so let's look at the first thing we did. First thing we did was to remove Colin. As you can see in the list, Colin is gone. Colin no longer is there. We had Paul and Kevin, Colin and Kevin, and now Colin's gone. Okay. Then we did del friends 2. Who was at position 2? Well, Carlos was at position 2, 0, 1, 2. So we've now got rid of him. Okay, now what happens with pop? Pop removes the last person in the list, and as you can see, it's shown that last friend, which is where we put him, is now Kevin, and the list has got rid of Kevin. Kevin no longer exists